Racial profiling has been a subject of intense debate and controversy in recent years. Advocates argue that it is a necessary tool for law enforcement agencies to identify potential threats and maintain public safety. They claim that certain demographic groups, particularly those associated with higher crime rates, should be subject to closer scrutiny. Proponents argue that racial profiling can lead to the prevention of crimes before they occur, potentially saving lives. In their view, the temporary inconvenience faced by individuals who are profiled is a small price to pay for enhanced security. On the other hand, opponents of racial profiling argue that it is an unjust and discriminatory practice that perpetuates stereotypes and violates individuals' rights. They assert that singling out individuals based on their race or ethnicity is not only morally wrong but also ineffective in combating crime. Critics argue that racial profiling lacks statistical basis and may lead to innocent people being targeted solely due to their appearance. Moreover, they claim that it creates a sense of alienation and mistrust between minority communities and law enforcement agencies. One of the main concerns surrounding racial profiling is the potential for racial bias and discrimination. Critics argue that law enforcement agents, consciously or unconsciously, may harbor racial prejudices that affect their judgment and actions. They cite numerous cases where innocent individuals have been subjected to unwarranted searches, detentions, and even acts of violence due to racial profiling. These instances serve as troubling reminders of the dangers posed by the unchecked use of this practice. However, proponents of racial profiling emphasize that it is not solely based on race or ethnicity, but rather a combination of factors such as behavior, location, intelligence reports. They argue that all enforcement agencies employ techniques that go beyond racial considerations, focusing on suspicious activities and behaviors exhibited for them to decay the company. Supporters maintain that racial profiling, when used in conjunction with other intelligence methods, can be an effective tool in identifying potential threats. Another aspect of the racial profiling debate revolves around the concept of national security. Proponents argue that in the interest of protecting the nation from terrorism and other criminal activities, certain sacrifices must be made. They contend that profiling allows law enforcement agencies to allocate their resources more efficiently, focusing on individuals who are statistically more likely to engage in criminal behavior. This, in turn, enables a greater emphasis on prevention and deterrence. Opponents, however, question whether the benefits of racial profiling outweigh its costs. They argue that besides violating the principles of equality and fairness, racial profiling undermines social cohesion and trust in law enforcement. Critics contend that it results in the alienation and marginalization of minority communities, making them less likely to cooperate with authorities in solving crime or reporting suspicious activities. Moreover, opponents argue that racial profiling diverts valuable resources away from other proactive policing strategies that could focus on crime prevention as a whole. The legal aspect of racial profiling is also a point of contention. Critics argue that racial profiling violates the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, which protects citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures. They assert that profiling based on race or ethnicity alone qualifies as an unlawful search and goes against the principles of due process and equal protection without working on. On the other hand, proponents contend that racial profiling is not explicitly unconstitutional, as the courts have allowed it in certain circumstances where public safety is at stake. In the realm of public opinion, racial profiling is a polarizing issue. It has ignited passionate debates and activism, leading to calls for reform and accountability. Both sides of the argument recognize the importance of balancing individual rights with collective security. However, finding a consensus on the appropriate balance remains a challenge. The complexity of the issue requires nuanced discussions that take into account the various perspectives, experiences, and consequences associated with racial profiling. In conclusion, the debate surrounding racial profiling encompasses deeply rooted concerns about discrimination, security, and individual rights. Supporters argue that it is a necessary law enforcement tool that enhances public safety, while opponents assert that it infringes upon civil liberties and fosters division. Achieving a comprehensive understanding and resolution to this contentious issue requires open dialogue, empirical research, and a commitment to building trust between communities and law enforcement agencies.